The battle for running back 2 in the 2026 NFL draft is going to be something that comes down to the wire. A lot of people want to name Jadarian Price from Notre Dame. A lot of people want to name Emmett Johnson from Nebraska. That's the new hot, fun name. Nobody's really wanting to crown Katron Allen as that guy. Some people wanted to do Nick Singleton. He broke his foot at the Senior Bowl last week. Jonah Coleman from Washington, 5'9", 228 pounds. We'll talk about him in this series of crowning the number 2 running back in the class. But today I want to talk about the one and the only Mike Washington Jr. from Arkansas. Please click that like button, click subscribe, lock in every single day of the week with the Draft Ranking Show here on podcast and on YouTube. Again, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday night at 7 p.m. Eastern Time on the YouTube channel, The Draft Rankings. You can also get it on podcast the following morning at the crack of dawn. It will be up. Only 2 shows per week will be on the Player Profiler main feed. The rest you will have to get if you're listening on podcast on the Draft Rankings podcast feed only. So you'll get Maddie and myself on Monday and Wednesday, but only one of those will be on the main feed. And then you'll get myself on Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday, and one of those will be on the main feed as well. I appreciate y'all for tapping in, locking in. Let's start out with Mike Washington Jr., who was just down at the Senior Bowl in Mobile. I saw him last week with my own very eyes. 6 foot tall, half inch, so almost 6'1", almost 6 foot, right in between there. But the notable thing is he's 228 pounds. Of all the running backs in this class, he's one of the heaviest, right? He's 228 pounds. Jonah Coleman's 227, 5'8", right? But Mike Washington's 6 foot and some change. Adam Randall's 233 pounds from Clemson, former wide receiver. C.J. Donaldson from Ohio State, projected to come in around 234. T.J. Harden from SMU at 232, to name a couple of the other heavyweights in the group. The difference between Mike Washington and all of those guys is Mike Washington simply moves different. The biggest red flag, and maybe the one thing that's holding most people back from putting the chips in on Mike Washington in the 2026 NFL draft at the running back position, is that he was born in 2001, specifically July 3rd. So that means he turns 25 years old the day before the 4th of July, which means he will be 25 and a half, which is the running back age apex in football during the first month of his rookie season. Why is that a big deal? Well, because the people he's competing with broke out at 18 years old. He broke out at 24 and a half. Nick Singleton broke out at 18 and a half. Katron, 19 and a half. Le'Veon Moss, 20. Roman Hemby, 20. Mike Washington spent 3 years at Buffalo, 1 year at New Mexico State, and the last year at Arkansas. By way of Cicero, New York, he's a 2-star prospect coming out of high school. This last year at Arkansas, when he broke out, he had 1,068 scrimmage yards. He had just about 195 total touches, 24% of the team's total production. I had a 5th-round grade on him entering the Senior Bowl. But down at the Senior Bowl, he was the most impressive running back that we saw with our own eyes. And that was including Nick Singleton, Katron Allen. Nick Singleton, again, practiced for 2 days and some change on Thursday before breaking his foot. Jonah Coleman didn't show up. I like Adam Randall. He was there as well. Kalen Black, Rasul Faison, Jay Knott, among other names. Mike Washington has 2 seasons with 20-plus receptions, 2022 at Buffalo, 2025 at Arkansas. 60% of his rushing yards came after contact in 2025. That's 19th most total yards after contact in the Power 4. 7 of his 12 games had more than 6 yards per carry in 2025. He interestingly enough, like when I want to see a guy create through power, wiggle, and speed, he creates through power with ease. His wiggle is very deceptive. If you don't watch closely and you don't pick up on something that I said, part of his game, and so Alex Dunlap and I from rosterwatch.com for close to 2 hours one night in Mobile, I think it was Wednesday night, stayed up discussing who is a comp. Who is the best comp for Mike Washington Jr.? Early on, I was on Latavius Murray. I can't remember who the other comp was that I had early on in there, but Najee Harris became one of them. And then on Tuesday when we were in Mobile, I said, man, the thing about his size is his cut, his jump cut in between the guard and tackle spot. His jump cut to acceleration, that kind of combination, I've only ever seen from one dude with my own eyes in person. And I've seen a lot of running backs with my own eyes. And that one dude was Adrian Peterson. And I'm not going to comp him to Adrian Peterson right off the rip. But that was because obviously it's a whole different situation. He was prolific at Oklahoma early, was drafted top 10, yada, yada. I don't got to, yes. But that jump cut to acceleration combination was Adrian Peterson-esque. And I couldn't comp him to him. So we discussed it. We talked about it through the process. What's this guy going to be? Is he going to run sub 4.55, 4.53, somewhere in this conversation? And, like I said, floated out Najee Harris. There's a couple other bigger backs that we kind of floated out there. Carlos Hyde. But we ended on Clinton Portis, the great Miami running back. If you remember from back when Willis McGahee was there, and Frank Gore and Najee Davenport, Clinton Portis was around that same time. Negatives. 7 fumbles over the last 2 seasons. His pass protection grade, according to PFF, was 116th out of 137. That was on the season. Now, in Mobile, it was a little bit different. He was much more acceptable in the pass protection, which is not a great place. Like, it's not an easy place to have success in Mobile one-on-one against linebackers that are really, they have like 8 yards. If you've never seen this drill, you can go look it up on Twitter probably and see like running back pass protection. Jade Knott, I think, had some reps. K-Tron Allen had some bad reps. And you can see these linebackers get 8 yards to just come barreling at you and run you over. And it happens. Mike Washington held his own at the event, and I was impressed with just that. I think Mike Washington's going to make a case for himself, even though he's 25 and a half years old. There will be teams out there that see this profile and say, man, he's 25 and a half in week 1 and week 2. And he's been in the league for this. He's been in college for this long. It's not like he's 190 pounds. He's 228. He's a grown man in the SEC at 1,000 yards this last year. This isn't some Joe Blow from UCF. This isn't some Joe Blow from Buffalo where he once was. Mike Washington's going to make noise because the class lacks density. It lacks top-end talent outside of Jeremiah Love. You can hate on it all you want. There's no tier 2 in the 2026 NFL draft. That's why I'm having this conversation. That's why I want to do this mini series about finding the RB2, crowning the RB2 in the 2026 class. It's Jeremiah Love, number 1. Who's number 2? And I think there's a clear gap at tier 2. And then this conversation of all these running backs we're going to talk about that are in tier 3. Mike Washington was a stud in Mobile. Mike Washington had big games in the SEC, including against Texas in 2025. Keep the name Mike Washington at the forefront of the conversation when you're looking at these running backs. And even in Dynasty, you're going to worry about that age. It matters in Dynasty. But what happens when he gets onto an NFL team in 2026, what year it is, and he rushes for 1,000 yards? What's that worth to your Dynasty roster when you're drafting him in the late 2nd, early 3rd round? Or what's that worth to your fantasy team in week 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of the regular season in seasonal leagues, right? It's worth a lot. But for me, when you're looking at the class as a whole from an NFL draft analyst perspective, Mike Washington makes a very, very good case because NFL doesn't play fantasy. NFL plays real life football. And NFL looks at the running back position in 2- and 3-year windows. And Mike Washington in the 3rd and 4th round of the NFL draft puts you under contract with a rookie running back with around $1 million salary for 2 to 3 to maybe 4 years. Mike Washington kicks us off. Arkansas running back, Mike Washington. Best comparable? Clinton Portis.